Hello and welcome to Celebrities Unmatched, where we bring you real-life stories of incredible moments involving some of the most extraordinary people. Today, we have an inspiring and emotional tale that will restore your faith in humanity. This story is about a man who tried to scam an elderly couple, but what happened next is something you won't believe. When all seemed lost, Keanu Reeves stepped in and turned the tables in a way that will leave you speechless. Make sure to stick around until the end because this story is packed with twists, emotion, and a powerful message about kindness and doing what's right. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Celebrities Unmatched, and share it with your friends. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you more amazing stories. Now, let's dive in. It was a bright and crisp autumn afternoon in downtown Los Angeles. The sun filtered through the golden leaves of the sycamore trees lining the bustling streets. The city was alive with its usual energy, people heading to work, kids playing in parks, and tourists snapping photos of famous landmarks. Amidst the crowd, an elderly couple, George and Marjorie Williams, strolled hand in hand. George was tall and lean, his hair silver and neatly combed, while Marjorie had soft wrinkles that framed her warm, kind smile. Married for 50 years, they still held hands as they walked, a testament to their unbreakable bond. The Williamses had decided to visit a new outdoor art exhibit in the park. It was rare for them to venture downtown these days, but George loved art, and Marjorie loved seeing his face light up when he talked about it. As they admired the sculptures, a man in his mid-40s approached them. He was dressed in a suit that looked just a little too flashy, his hair slicked back with an overabundance of gel. His name was Rick, and he had a smile that was as smooth as it was insincere. "Good afternoon," Rick said, his voice dripping with charm. "You look like a couple with excellent taste. Are you enjoying the art?" George, ever polite, smiled and nodded. "Yes, it's wonderful. It's nice to see creativity celebrated like this." Rick's eyes lit up. "Ah, a man who appreciates art. You're just the kind of person I love to meet. You see, I'm an art dealer. And I'm here today because I have an exclusive offer on some rare pieces. In fact, I think I might have something perfect for a couple like you." Marjorie hesitated, glancing at George. They weren't the kind of people to spend money impulsively, but Rick's enthusiasm was persuasive. Rick reached into his briefcase and pulled out a portfolio filled with glossy photos of paintings and sculptures. "These are one-of-a-kind pieces, created by up-and-coming artists who are bound to be the next big thing. Investing in these now could mean a significant return in just a few years. And because you're such a lovely couple, I'd be happy to offer you a special deal today." George studied the photos, his brow furrowed. "They're beautiful," he said cautiously. "But we're on a fixed income. We're not in a position to make big investments." Rick's smile didn't waver. "Oh, I completely understand. But think of this as a legacy. Something to pass down to your family. And you don't have to pay the full amount up front, we have a convenient payment plan." Marjorie felt uneasy. Something about Rick seemed off, but George's interest in the artwork made her hesitate to voice her concerns. As Rick continued his pitch, someone nearby was quietly observing the interaction. Dressed casually in jeans and a leather jacket, with his trademark long hair tied back, Keanu Reeves was sitting on a park bench, enjoying a rare moment of solitude. Keanu had been reading a book when he noticed Rick approaching the Williamses. At first, it seemed like a harmless conversation, but Keanu had a sharp eye for people, and something about Rick's demeanor set off alarm bells. He watched as Rick pointed to photos and gestured animatedly, his tone growing more insistent. Keanu could see the uncertainty in George's face and the nervousness in Marjorie's body language. When George finally reached for his wallet, Keanu decided it was time to step in. He stood up and walked over, his footsteps quiet but deliberate. "Excuse me," he said, his voice calm yet commanding. Rick turned, startled. "Yes?" Can I help you? Keanu smiled, but his eyes were serious. I couldn't help overhearing. You're selling art? Rick hesitated, clearly thrown off by Keanu's sudden appearance. Yes. I'm an art dealer. I was just showing this lovely couple some pieces they might be interested in. Keanu nodded, his expression unreadable. That's interesting. Because I happen to know a little about art. Do you mind if I take a look? Rick's confidence faltered, but he handed over the portfolio. Keanu flipped through the photos, his brow furrowing. Then he looked up at Rick. These are stock images, he said bluntly. I've seen some of these online. They're not for sale, and they're certainly not one of a kind. Rick's face turned red. That's ridiculous. I don't know what you're talking about. Keanu's voice remained calm, but there was an edge to it now. Look, I'm not trying to cause a scene. But I don't appreciate people taking advantage of others, especially kind people like them. He gestured to George and Marjorie, who were watching in stunned silence. Rick stammered, searching for a way out. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Keanu stepped closer, his calm demeanor unwavering. There's no misunderstanding. Walk away. Now. Rick hesitated for a moment, then grabbed his portfolio and muttered something under his breath before disappearing into the crowd. Keanu turned to George and Marjorie, his expression softening. Are you two okay? George nodded slowly. Yes, thank you. I don't know what we would have done if you hadn't stepped in. Marjorie reached out and took Keanu's hand. You're an angel. Thank you. Keanu smiled. Just doing the right thing. You two take care, okay? As he walked away, the Williamses couldn't believe what had just happened. They had always admired Keanu Reeves on screen, but now they had experienced his kindness firsthand. As Keanu walked away, George and Marjorie stood in silence for a moment, still trying to process what had just happened. George clutched Marjorie's hand, his fingers trembling slightly. Can you believe that was him? He whispered. Marjorie smiled, though her eyes were watery. I can't believe it, but I can believe what he did. He didn't even hesitate to help us. That man has a heart of gold. George shook his head, glancing at the spot where Rick had disappeared. I should have seen it coming. I was too caught up in the art to notice he was trying to scam us. He sighed heavily. I feel like a fool. Marjorie turned to him and placed her hands on his shoulders. Don't say that, George. You have a kind heart, and people like him take advantage of that. But it's because of people like you that the world isn't all bad. And thanks to Mr. Reeves, we're safe. George nodded slowly, a small smile breaking through his guilt. You're right. I wish I could thank him properly. What he did meant more to me than I can say. Marjorie gave his hand a reassuring squeeze. Maybe you'll get the chance one day. But for now, let's promise to be more careful. And let's never forget what he taught us today. There are still good people in this world. Meanwhile, Keanu Reeves slipped into the flow of the bustling park, blending into the crowd with practiced ease. He wasn't one to dwell on moments like this. To him, stepping in was second nature, something anyone should do. But as he walked, his mind wandered back to George and Marjorie. They reminded him of his own late mother and father, kind, humble people who had taught him the importance of compassion and standing up for what's right. He thought about how easily Rick had targeted them and how many others like Rick were out there, preying on the vulnerable. It wasn't just about catching one scammer, it was about setting an example, showing that people could stand together to protect one another. Keanu took a deep breath and smiled to himself. He didn't need recognition or thanks, just knowing he'd made a difference was enough. A week later, George and Marjorie decided to write Keanu a thank you note. They couldn't find a direct way to reach him, but Marjorie, determined as ever, decided to send it through his management office. In their letter, they expressed their gratitude, not just for his actions but for the way he made them feel seen and valued. Marjorie wrote, "You didn't just save us from losing money, you reminded us that kindness still exists in this world. You've given us a story we'll carry in our hearts forever." What they didn't expect was what happened next. A few weeks later, George and Marjorie were sitting at their kitchen table, sipping tea and enjoying the quiet morning, when the doorbell rang. George shuffled to answer it, expecting a delivery or a neighbor. But when he opened the door, he froze. Standing there, smiling warmly, was Keanu Reeves. "Hi," Keanu said, holding up the letter they had sent. "I got your note. Thought I'd stop by and say hello." George's mouth opened, but no words came out. Marjorie, hearing the voice, hurried to the door, her teacup clinking in her hand. When she saw Keanu, she gasped. "Oh my goodness!" Keanu chuckled, stepping inside as they welcomed him. "I was in the area," he explained, "and I wanted to thank you for your kind words. It meant a lot to me." The couple insisted he sit down, offering him tea and cookies. They spent the next hour talking not about movies or fame, but about life, family, and the importance of kindness. George shared stories about his time as a young art teacher, while Marjorie talked about their grandchildren and how they hoped to teach them the same values Keanu had demonstrated. Before he left, Keanu did something that left them speechless. He pulled out a small envelope and handed it to George. "What's this?" George asked, puzzled. Keanu smiled. "Open it." Inside was a certificate for an art gallery membership, along with a handwritten note. "For the art lover in you. Keep inspiring others." George's hands trembled as he looked up at Keanu. I don't know what to say." Keanu placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Just keep being yourselves. That's more than enough." The story of what happened with George, Marjorie, and Keanu soon spread, first among neighbors and friends, and eventually across social media. People were inspired by Keanu's humility and the way he used his influence to make real connections with others. It wasn't about being a celebrity, it was about being human. In interviews months later, when asked about the incident, Keanu simply said, "We're all in this world together. If you have the chance to do something good, why wouldn't you?" And that, dear viewers, is the kind of story that reminds us why Keanu Reeves is not just an incredible actor but an incredible person. His actions show that no matter who you are, you have the power to make a difference in someone's life. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Celebrities Unmatched, and share it with others to spread the message of kindness. Thank you for watching, and remember, kindness costs nothing, but it's worth everything.